Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello, yes.
Hi, hi.
Hi.
We hear you
My
clearly.
my lighting is not that good, so please bear with me. My name is Emunah, formerly known as Faith Munyaka, and I am stepping in for Patricia Mativo. So welcome to today's session, and I hope you learn and you get the information that you need, right? So I'd like to first introduce our panel, and I'll ask Chelsea to start.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening to everybody. My name is Chelsea Irakoze. I am from Burundi, doing an MSc at Oxford. Thank you.
Thank you, Chelsea. Marah, Grace.
Hi everyone, my name is Marah Shibana. I'm from Malawi. I'm currently doing my DPhil, focusing on the immune system at the University of Oxford. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to the session.
Linet.
Thank you so much, Emunah, for having me around. My name is Linet Munganga. I'm first year DPhil in chemistry at the University of Oxford. I'm from Kenya.
And Thorsten Shibambu. Hi.
Thorsten, you're on mute.
It's been a long day. Hi, everyone. My name is Thorsten Shibambu, from South Africa, doing a PhD in engineering in Oxford. Looking forward to this session and looking forward to the questions. And hopefully I can answer some of the questions that you have about the scholarship.
Thank you so much for introducing yourselves. Like I said, my name is Emunah, formerly known as Faith. I just changed my name recently, so I go by Emunah now. Um, The first question I'd like to ask is, what is the Rhodes Scholarship? What can you tell us about the Rhodes Scholarship? We'll start with Chelsea.
Thank you. What is the Rhodes Scholarship? I will just use simple words. It's a fully funded scholarship for postgraduate studies and for young people. I'm gonna emphasize on that, from all over the world, but specifically who aspire to study at the University of Oxford. So that's what I would say.
Okay, thank you so much. How does the application look like in terms of eligibility and selection, and is the process different in different countries, and how does it look in different countries? And I'd like Marah to answer this question.
Okay. Thank you, Emunah. Um, so the Rhodes Scholarship, as Chelsea mentioned, is for people from all over the world who want to study at the University of Oxford. And the way the scholarship works is that it is divided into what are known as constituencies. So as we are here on this call, we have Chelsea, who's from the East, Chelsea and Linet, you are from the East African constituency, even though I know Kenya kind of stands on its own. And then Thorsten and I are from the Southern Africa constituency, and there are several other constituencies in the world: India, America, Canada, etc. So when you go on the website for the Rhodes Scholarship, the first page that you have is one of that checks your eligibility. So depending on your country, there might be a few differences, but mostly it's the same. It's a scholarship for young people, I must say, because the age criteria is mostly 18 to 24 years of age, or not more than 25 when you're coming into Oxford. Unless you did a degree that took longer, and it's all detailed on the website. Or if you did, for example, I'm a medical doctor and I applied for the Rhodes Scholarship when I was 25 and came to Oxford when I was 26. But for medical doctors, it's extended up to, for my constituents, up to about 27, 28 actually. So there's some of those like slight differences depending on the degree that you did, but mostly it's for people between the ages of 18, and you must not be more than 25 by the time you come to start your degree at Oxford. So if you're applying for next year, what that means is that you shouldn't be more than 25 years of age by October 2026. And there's all this information on the website, and there's always emails to the different constituencies where you can ask and say, I was born on this day, am I still eligible? Yeah, so I think that's what I would highlight.
Okay, thank you so much for that very detailed answer. I'd like to ask if the process is different for different constituencies. Like you said that, I'm not sure what the pronunciation of your name is. I'm gonna call you Shibambu. I don't know what the first name. I'm not sure, so I'll call you Shibambu, my lord. Anyway, so is it different for people in the south? Is it different for, I mean, like Africans in the south or Africans in the east, maybe even in the north? Is the process different for different constituents?
Yeah, thank you. You can just call me Shivambu. As far as I can remember, there are slight differences with the constituency. You find that some other constituencies are slightly bigger. So then they divide them into small regions, and within those different regions, so okay, so usually the selection process is like this. So you have the application. After submitting the application, you get selected, and once you have been selected, um, comes the interview. And just before the interview, there's usually uh, a dinner if the interview is in person. So with the constituencies that have regions within themselves, uh, you will have the regional interviews before the nation the or the yeah the regional. This is very confusing because there's the region of East Africa, but there's regions within the entire constituency. So you have the first step and then the final step where you're actually getting the scholarship. Um, so once you succeed on the first round of interviews, you go to the second round of interviews, which will determine whether you get a scholarship or not. What the scholarship has tried over the years is try to have a standardized process across all the different constituencies. I am not sure how standardized it is at the moment, but usually it should be likely the same across the different constituencies with just slight differences. With like very, very minor things. But you should expect the same things from across all the different constituencies. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, it has answered my question. Thank you. Is do you think that students experience some different process of application because you're from the east side of the region?
Maybe she can go and then I'll sort of try to do the same area of synergy. So the application process is and the scholarship opens in June. The deadline is on the last day of August typically. And there's 2 parts to it, or like 3 parts. There's the written application, there's a pre-selection dinner, and there's the interview. So in the written application, you get to write a personal statement, which is sort of a statement of your life purpose. And you also submit an academic statement, which is sort of a detailed snapshot of what you've done academically and what you would like to achieve academically through the Rhodes Scholarship. You also need to provide references. That's 3 character referees. I think 3 academic referees and 2 character referees. And it's done through a portal, like there's a portal, the Rhodes Trust portal. And sort of when you're providing the references, your referees get a prompt and they can always send the references. And then after you have the written application whose deadline is usually the last day of August, you get to know whether you made the shortlist. So in the Kenyan constituency, the email is sent sometime end of October or early November. That's when you know whether you made it to the shortlist. And it's usually an invitation to a pre-selection dinner that happens on the eve of the interview, which happens on the following day. During the pre-selection dinner, you meet other finalists. So in my constituency, there were 8 of us. That was in 2023 November. And then it's a chilled evening where you meet your fellow finalists and the selectors as well, people you'll be meeting in the panel the following day. And then the following day is when now you show up for the interview. And I think mine took like an hour or something. So there's the written application, and then you get to know whether you make it to the shortlist. And then after shortlisting, you attend the pre-selection dinner on the eve of the interview, and then the interview, and the results come in probably the same day or the day after. Yeah, maybe Chelsea can let me know if it was the same for the East Africa constituency. Can let us know.
Thank
So
you.
it was practically the same thing. The only difference was that my interview lasts for 25 minutes, but I'm surprised that yours was like a whole hour. I spent 25 minutes in the room. That's the only difference.
Okay.
I say, okay.
So
Maybe 45 to 1 hour. I'm not so sure, but it was probably 45 minutes to 1 hour.
Yeah. Sorry, just to quickly add on that. So with the Southern African constituency, there's also a slight difference because there are other countries that are not included in the South Africa. But within South Africa, the first interview, I mean, both interviews are about 45 minutes long. So you go through the first round of the region, and if you are successful, you go to the final round. And the final round is also about 45 minutes long. And this interviews, just to add on what you said, is usually a panel of people. Usually, I can't remember. I think it was 8 when I did mine, so it was quite a large group. But I think other constituencies might have a slight difference in terms of how many people are in the room with you. But in total, the amount of people were in the room with me was actually about 16. But the other ones are just observers, just to make you aware of such a thing.
Yeah, and I think if I can just jump in and say that before we've spoken a lot about the interview, and I think it's pretty standard across every constituency that you submit your application, then they meet you in person, and you have to do an in-person interview. I think it was only during the pandemic when they did them online. But one other thing I'd want to highlight is the actual selection criteria that you need to highlight both in your personal statement, and which is what they also look at or look for when they're interviewing you. And you can find it on the website. But in summary, the first thing is academic excellence. So you'll see that even on the website, when you're clicking your eligibility criteria, they'll ask you for, like, there's a threshold for a GPA or and that on the website. So academic excellence is number one, and then number two is the other criteria is energy to use one talent to the fullest. So I don't know, whatever your talent is, singing, sport, whatever it is, and talents do not have to be like in one form, they can be in different forms. The other one is truth, kindliness, devotion to duty. It's a quite long one. And the last one is the moral force of character to lead. So as you write your personal statement, you can, there are also prompts that kind of speak to this selection criteria that you should make sure like you exemplify in your personal statement, but they will then also see that when they're interviewing you. So all of this is also on the website.
Thank you so much for your input. I feel like yes, Shibambu, you have something to say?
Yeah, sorry to disturb you from finishing. I just saw a chat on the chat about the step-by-step guide on how to apply for the scholarship, and I just wanted to quickly address that. So there's a link that I sent on the chat that has everything about the application process of the scholarship. So the application process of the scholarship is the same. The first step is this, I think, is the same for all the regions. You just have to go through the different steps. But the website has all the information about the specifics on what you need, on how you need to submit everything on, and also when you need to submit everything by. So please just have a look on the website. I think that would be much easier than them having to explain the step by step. Um, I think it would have been easier if this information was shared earlier, so you could ask specific questions on the application details themselves. But I hope that is helpful.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. I think the next question that I'd like people to be aware of is, what are the documents required in terms of English tests, references, and such documents that the scholarship requires an applicant to submit. We'll start with Linet.
So I think I remember the documents like from the application portal. I remember there was sort of the birth certificate as justification of age. I also remember there was a CV on top of like the personal and academic statements. And I remember there was a primary school living certificate for the Kenyan constituency. I'm not sure what the equivalents are in the Southern Africa and East Africa. There was also a high school living certificate. There is also the national ID because you must be resident in a certain constituency for given amounts of time. So yeah, aside from the written documents, it's birth certificate, national ID, primary school living certificate, high school living certificate. So that's when you're applying to the scholarship. Now, in case you get the funding or the scholarship, basically, you need to think about applying to Oxford to begin with. So, because you now have funding and Oxford application usually opens at around that time. So when you get selected is when you can think about now the English test. Sort of when you get an admission to the university, because I think it's a separate process now applying to the university. I see Trish has typed in the chat. So it's different when you've applied for the scholarship. When it comes to the English test, it's you do it and it's not mandatory. It depends on when you finished school or whether your main language of instruction was English. And that's after you've secured admission to Oxford. So sort of to like fulfill all the requirements is when you need to do an English test and visa application. That's once you have secured like the funding basically. I don't know whether that has answered the question.
Yes, it has. Thank you so much, Linet. I'd like Chelsea to maybe touch on how the references and how many you need and, such and such.
So currently we need to apply, you need you need 4 minimum refers, 3 academic refers, and 1 character refer. But I think on our time it was 2 academic and 1 character, right, Linet? I think so. But I just checked on the website, it's 4 minimum now. So I think it's slightly changing, but yeah. So 3 from the academic perspective and 1 who would kind of witness about your character to lead and how you are a leader, a becoming leader. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. There are many
Okay.
questions in the chat. There are people asking about a research proposal and about the academic statement. So I don't know if you guys can be able to expound on that, because there are a couple of people who want to know about that.
Maybe I can try and answer that. So like the academic statement is sort of meant to highlight the academic purpose, what you want to do in Oxford, and it's meant to be very succinct. It ought to communicate like what you've done academically and what you envision to do. So when you're writing the academic statement, like I'll speak from my like from the course that I did, the DPhil in chemistry, probably Chelsea can speak on the economics, and maybe the Thorsten and Marah can speak on engineering and cellular medicine. So while I was writing the academic statements, I sort of based my arguments on what I had done before in terms of my course. At this point, it needs to be very specific, and there should be a thread. Like there should be a thread from what you did, what you envision doing, and in this is where you highlight someone you realized you could work with in the capacity of a supervisor. Because the reason why you write this statement is when you get selected as a Rhodes Scholar, it doesn't take long before you will need to apply to Oxford, and sort of having that academic statement, having you think about the academic statement helps you front load the responsibility to think about it later. So like, yeah, I see Marah has shared a list of courses to Oxford. So you can sort of think about the list, a course that you want to take, and think about the courses that are on offer there. Think about what you learned and what research you would want to do. Now, the research proposal comes in as you are applying to Oxford directly. I'm speaking from like the program that I'm doing. So when I wanted now to apply to Oxford directly, that's when I had to write a statement of academic purpose, which serves as a proposal. And it was actually a one-pager. Fun fact. It's worth having a conversation with your supervisor because I was very intimidated. I thought I would probably need to write like pages and tons of paper. But I had a conversation with my supervisor and he was like, just submit a one pager, which is technically which technically tells a story of what you want to do in Oxford. Maybe Chelsea, Marah, and Thorsten can add to that. Something I've left out.
I'd like us first to answer a few more questions before we can get into the questions that have been asked on the chat, and we'll get to those questions in a minute or two. The next question I'd like to ask Thorsten, I hope I'm getting that right, is if it's possible to apply straight to a DPhil and without a master's, and how does one go about that?
I know I keep on forgetting that I'm on mute. So this is one interesting thing about Oxford, and I think also Cambridge. The fact that you can apply for a PhD program without having a master's degree, and that is exactly what I did. So there are specific requirements. I'm not sure if it's all the courses. I tried looking at some of the courses, but it seems like a number of courses do allow this specific thing where you can apply, provided that you meet a specific requirement, which is usually a first class honors or second class, or an upper I think it's upper second class. So if you do meet these requirements, then you can apply for a PhD program without having a master's degree. On top of that, your undergraduate degree should come with honors. That is one of the things that they explain, that it should come with an honor. So if it doesn't have an honors, then it can become a bit tricky. So just check or just be sure that your degree has an honors before you commit to the application process. I don't know what else I can say about this, because this is just the main thing. Just meeting the specific requirements is all you need. I guess you have to do other things like writing a proposal, which is the tricky bit of the application process. But I can answer that a bit later. Thanks.
Thank you, Thorsten, for that. The next question I'd like to ask is, what advice can you give during the course selection and justification? And Linet, if you could, please answer this question. Thank you.
Okay. No worries. So when you're thinking about course selection, you will be doing a postgraduate degree. That means you have your bachelor's and or a master's. So you want to do something that's sort of analogous to what you've done before. And when you're thinking about selecting a course, is it something that you're interested in? And also, is it something that you feel like if you're applying for it, you don't have to like have all the prior knowledge. But do you think that because when you come to Oxford, it's usually quite a steep learning curve. So do you think you would be comfortable with picking up that curve? And when you're writing the academic statements, it's where now you start to think about, like as I mentioned earlier, you start to think about the research projects that you did, like the course that's on offer. Where are the areas of synergy with what you've done before? Did you do a research project in your undergraduate? Now, in the academic statement is where you write that. Did you do an internship? Did you do work that's related to the degree that you're taking? So sort of that like that sort of encapsulates the justification. And also do mention like a gap you've observed, because it's postgraduate study that you're doing. So it's very important that you have prior knowledge of the recent advancements. You don't need to know it all, but know what's going on in your field. And relative to that, you can also highlight what gap you've realized and how you would want to tackle that. Mention someone who has worked on that and who you would like to work with. That always goes the upper hand. But to cut the long story short, let be a thread, like a connection, like in your application. That's what I would say.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Linet, for that. Marah, I'd like to ask you what are the financial and non-financial benefits of applying and maybe even getting the scholarship?
Thank you for that question. And I think my response is also going to answer what Tiffany Mochemi is asking in the chat about the scholarship tenure. So I think I don't even know how to explain it, but the Rhodes Scholarship is a life-changing opportunity, I think, in summary, and I can't put it into like actual words. And because you get to be in a community with other scholars who are also passionate, most likely about the things that you're passionate about. So it's a really amazing community. And that speaks to the non-financial benefits of the scholarship. So maybe let's go back to the financial one. So when you get the scholarship, it covers your funding at the University of Oxford. And that funding can either be for 2 years or for 3 years. For 3 years, if you're going to do a master's and then a PhD, or for 2 years, if you're coming in to do two master's degrees. But the funding ranges from 2 to 3 years. So it's not a 1 year funding that you get. You get funding for 2 to 3 years. That's how the scholarship is set up. So you spend 2 to 3 years in Oxford, depending on what you decide to do. When it comes to and this is something I must say now, when it comes to doing the 2 year programs, you can either do an MPhil if it takes 2 years. Most MPhils do actually take 2 years. So you might come in and just do the MPhil. You may come in and do two master's degrees. I should mention that there are certain combinations that are not allowed when you want to do two master's degrees. So you cannot come in and do a master's in business administration, so the MBA, and then go on and do the master's in public policy. That combination is not allowed, or the master's in it's called MLF, the Masters in Finance, I think. Yes. And you also can't do certain masters in the first year. So you can't just come to Oxford and in the first year say you want to do an MBA, a Masters in Finance, or a Masters in Public Policy, the MPP. That's also not allowed. So those are courses that you can do in your second year. So just be aware of that if that's your area of interest. So that's if you're doing a master's. If you're doing if you want to do a PhD, then you come in and you can come in first year, do a master's, and then do a PhD for the remaining 2 years. However, most PhDs are about 3 years. So you need to keep in mind that you might need to figure out funding for the third year. But that's a story for another day when you get there. But just keep it at the back of your mind. So you can come in, do a master's, and then do a PhD, or you can come in straight and just do a PhD. So those are kind of the options that are there. So that's the financial side. It will pay for your fees. So the reason why I said you must figure out funding if you want to do a master's, then a PhD, which means you're spending a total of 4 years in Oxford. And remember, I said the maximum that the Rhodes can cover you is 3 years. For the 4th year, it means they'll pay your school fees, but you will not be on a stipend. And you need money to live in the city and everything else. So that's why I said you have to think about the funding. So they'll cover your funding and stipend for a maximum of 3 years. That's what I can say. And the funding, the stipend is quite good. It's middle range in terms of like stipends for Oxford. And it does get adjusted every year according to inflation and all of those things. So that's the financial side. The non-financial benefits, I'll also let Thorsten, Linet, and Chelsea speak about what their experience has been in terms of non-financial side. But what I can say is that I think there's no other experience that will like compare to it. You don't just come to Oxford to get your degree. You come to Oxford and you live with so much more when you're part of the Rhodes community. And that ranges from leadership to all sorts of other events or interests that you may have. But I'll let everyone else speak in on the non-financial aspects.
Yeah, I think one of the things that has been quite special for me in relation to the scholarship is the exposure, the kind of people you get exposed to. Uh, First of all, a lot of the people that you'll be meeting within the scholarship. So one thing to outline before I get into that is that the scholarship usually has more than 100, I think it should be about 150 scholars at a specific time. And you have some sort of access to, yeah, let's say half of that number. And all these people are doing really amazing things. And most of the time you'll find that these people have really genuine interest in what others are doing, and they're just really nice people. So the scholarship gives you access to these really amazing people doing really amazing things. So as you're, I guess, completing your studies, you get some motivation from engaging with these people on a day-to-day basis. But at the same time, you're also getting to build relationships with these really amazing people that you're sharing this space with. And it's something that I've found to be quite valuable. And I've found the scholarship to facilitate that a lot more than any other space outside of that. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. I guess Linet and Chesley can add to what I just said.
Okay, I'll add the part. Of course, friendships, yes, but I'll also add the part of like benefiting from very brilliant lecturers and having smart classmates, having an intercultural experience. It was my first time studying abroad, so it was very interesting to me. Um, Also, attending conferences, I would mention that attending conferences cannot be as linear as we can think, but by volunteering, I got to kind of connect with people like scholars from some universities in the US, some universities in Africa. So it was very, very insightful to attend such conferences, meet Nobel Prizes, which would have been possible if I didn't attend this university. So I think that it was a great experience on the academic side as well to kind of hang out with very smart people.
Yeah, I totally agree with what Chelsea, Marah, Thorsten have shared. And maybe just to add it quickly, you get to grow a lot, not just academically, but also socially. And these opportunities to use your talents to the full as well. That's one of the selection criteria. But also the academic stretching that you get, it works on you as a person, not just academically. really works on your character. So if you're passionate about something, work really hard and get the roads, and you can always continue with what you want to do in life. Because yeah, it feels good when you're able to wake up every day and go and work and study. I think that has been one of the biggest things that I've learned. Yeah.
Yes, Marah. You're muted. You're muted. I can't hear
Oh
you.
my goodness. Sorry. Yes, I wanted to say that Chelsea, Linet, and Thorsten have given like an amazing overview. But it's not all just hard work. We get to have fun as well. So that's what I wanted to add, that Oxford is an amazing place. There's lots of fun activities, whatever hobbies you have. There's probably a club. There's over 400 student clubs. Imagine that. There's probably something that you like that other people also do here. So it's a lot of fun. And even within the Rhodes communities, there's events every week. There's just so much happening. So it's a really fun place. So I would also like to highlight that aspect. You get the education, but apart from that, there's so much more going on that can also grow your social network, that you can have a good time. It's far away from home, but you do end up finding things that you love that make this place and your whole experience better.
Thank you so much for sharing. I personally feel motivated. I'm gonna go to the next question, and I'd like to direct it to Lynette, though everyone else can chime in. And I want to ask, what are the do's and the don'ts to consider in the application in terms of personal statements and academic statements?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. It's an interesting one. So I'll start with the do's mostly. Highly recommend start applying early. So it's 3 months for a reason. So start thinking about what you would like to craft quite early, especially for the personal statement. And in fact, as you're writing your personal statement for every constituency, there's usually a document called information for candidates. So it sort of has it's a detailed snapshot of what the scholarship is all about. And Mara highlighted that before about the selection criterion. And as you're writing the personal statement, you need to think about that selection criterion. During our year, there was like three main prompts. Probably they've changed over time. So I remember the first prompt was like, how has the Rhodes Scholarship? I mean, what's Rhodes Scholar quality do you display most strongly, and how are other contexts helping you develop the rest? And the second question is, what would you like, based on our year, like what would you like to learn from and contribute to the community in Oxford? And third one was, from your place in the world, what is humanity's greatest need? So as you're thinking about those kind of questions, um, think about what you've done before. I keep saying, think about your experiences in the past. Think about your influence, what influence you've had, and think about your intentions, and then weave that into a statement of life purpose. And you've got to avoid to be generic. Just be specific. If you can tell a story, there's no one way of writing. But from my personal experience, I found sharing anecdotes or personal stories very helpful. It was not something that was very deliberate. It took months, like days and days of sort of refining and sitting down and thinking through and just refining. But if you can give personal anecdotes, um, and you don't need to have done very major things for you to write this. It's just thinking about what you've done and weaving that into within the lens of that selection criterion and trying to answer those prompts. And that takes time and effort. So I said the first thing is start early. The other thing is dissect that information for candidates document as if your life depends on it. Um, and also, yeah, I think that maybe the don'ts that I would um says probably the opposite of what I've said is you don't want to do it last minute. You want to start early. You also probably I think there's rules to using AI as well. So you can use AI as a help, but there's there's like a guideline from the trust on how you would want to use AI. But it's an interesting debate. So just be the one writing your story and don't be shy to tell your story. Just make it unique to you because it's unique to you. And maybe Marah, Thorsten, and Chelsea would add to this that if you look at Rhodes scholars, you can't tell that, this is a Rhodes scholar from like, because you can't predict, because everyone is just different in their own way. So, in your most seemingly best way possible to tell your life story, do it as much as you can and let it be very, very authentic. um so yeah, just be very authentic, be very specific, dissect the information for candidates documents, and just write a story. That's for the personal statement. I think that also goes across to the academic statement. Be very specific about what you want. And yeah, just sit down and think about what you want to communicate and just communicate. Yeah, maybe Chelsea, Marah, and Justin can add to that.
Just to quickly add on what you said, Linet, I think one of the things that I have seen being very helpful to others is finding someone to go through your statements before you submit. Does help a lot because some of us are not used to expressing ourselves. And I think with the personal statement specifically, you need to be a bit more expressive. So if you can find someone to go through your statement and to just look at some basic things, doesn't have to be like very specific, but just having someone to see if they can understand what you're trying to explain about yourself will be very helpful when you're trying to make an application. Um, yeah, yeah, the others can add on top of that, but yeah, just that's just what I wanted to add.
Thank you.
I would also add about the originality, kind of not try to impress too much. Like just be yourself, write about yourself. Don't try to impress the select like the selecting committee, because I on the final step, like the interview step, I was with 7 Ugandans. Sorry, I'll just take 2 minutes. I was the only Burundian. And when I looked at all the other applicants, like all the other finalists, I was like, we all deserve to be Rhodes Scholars. They all deserve to be Rhodes Scholars. So it's not about trying to impress them and be like, oh, I did this for 5 years while you're just 23 years old. So I feel like it doesn't make sense to say that you have a 5 years experience, like working experience. It's good to just say what you did, like really did, how you're passionate about that, how you think going to Oxford will help you do better in that field or any other field, how you feel like you are going to become somebody better than what you are now by just doing that degree. That's all they want to know. They want to know, why do you think giving you this scholarship will help you become the better version of you? So don't try to impress the selecting committee.
Yeah, and just to come in, I absolutely agree with what Chelsea has said. Just be yourself. Don't oversell, don't undersell yourself. Just strike that nice balance and say, this is who I am and this is what I'm about. And try to be as authentic as possible, because the the struggle sometimes is you do once you submit this personal statement, they're going to meet you in person, and they can easily detect that the person who wrote that personal statement and the person they're meeting now are not exactly the same person. These are two different people. So you want to maintain that like that same, that this is me, what you read about me and what I wrote is indeed me. And when they meet you in person, you're not stressed about the interview because you know that everything that you wrote about is truly things that you're passionate about, things that are truthful, and things that you really enjoy and speak to you. And also just to mention that on the help, the personal statement is supposed to be truly your own work, but you can like use AI to modify spellings, etc., or other people just to help you with like the flow of maybe not to do the actual, what do you call it, actual editing. I think they do say something like that on the website. And I think what I wanted to add is when we get to this stage, people then start saying, oh, I need to see your personal statement. Can I see your personal statement? And all of those things. But what I do say is that there's no one way to do it. Everyone is different. Therefore, the way you're going to structure it and what you're going to write is going to be different. You don't have to copy or use someone else's personal statement as a template because who you are and who they are is totally different. So just think of, I need to write this personal statement and I'm going to write it based on these prompts, and I'm not going to try to like use someone else's template or be something that I'm not. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I think the last question that I'd have to ask is, how does shortlisting look like in Kenya, Burundi, South Africa, and Malawi? Is it mandatory to attend physical interviews and pre-dinners? And I'd like Thorsten to answer the question, then followed by the rest.
Sorry, I just have a quick question. Like, what do you mean? What does shortlisting look like? I don't fully understand the question. But I can say something about that. Maybe you can answer that a bit later. Um, the usual process, yeah, the process is that you submit your application, and then after submitting your application, specific people get selected, or they get listed, and from there, I think the other things have been explained that it's the pre-interview dinner, and you have the interview itself, which is usually in person unless there's a special circumstance. But I think for all the constituencies, the interview should be in person, and there's just a pre-interview dinner. Other than that, I think everything else on the specific issue has been explained, unless there's something that I'm missing that I can't think of right now. The facilitator is gone.
I'm here. Just
Oh,
let me know
okay.
if you can hear me. Yeah, Patricia is here. I didn't see that coming. But as we buy time, sorry, what can I didn't hear what you're saying, but please, Chelsea, I see your hand is up. Please just go ahead. I'm in the middle of transit. I'm sorry. Thank you. I'll take 2 seconds. On my time, it was just one slot for the East African constituency, but this year it's 2 slots. So it's just good news for you guys. I'm very excited about that. Last year was the last time we had only one person coming to Oxford, but this year we're going to have 2 people from East Africa. So please apply.
And I think what I can say to just add to what Chelsea has said is that it may look like 2 is not a lot of people compared to the people that are applying, but you might just be one of those 2. My constituency is 5 countries, so Botswana, Lesotho, Malawi, Namibia, and Eswatini, but you could be the one person. So don't look at the number of people, oh, the only 2 people from East Africa, for example, 2 people from Kenya, and be discouraged because you might just be that person.
Let me also add, so I applied for the Rhodes Scholarship in 2022. So that means if I was successful, I would have joined the 2023 cohort. But I ended up being a finalist where they only shortlist, in Kenya at least, they shortlist 8 candidates and they interview the 8 candidates from all the many applications. So I remember by the time I had submitted my application and it was almost getting to late October,
I don't know, somehow during the whole application, I did not realize that actually the Rhodes Scholarship in Kenya were picking only 2 people. But for me, I remember applying it with all my heart, saying, this one, let me just apply it. I mean, I fit all the criteria. Then I submit my application, very hopeful. Then when I was trying to understand why I'm not getting my that letter saying maybe you've been shortlisted or being rejected, that's when I realized I actually missed one key info that they were picking 2 candidates. So for me, I feel like it was quite helpful because, I just applied as Patricia. I really didn't want to know how many people they're selecting, but for me, it was very helpful. And yeah, I was just a step away from getting the scholarship. And so if that one helps in any way, when you're doing application, just think you as yourself who is applying and what you will sell yourself with. So let it not okay, we have lost Marah. Yeah, let it not, make you feel bad that, oh, maybe I might not be among the 2 or the 1 person, depending on the region that you're applying with. So just give it your best, and I mean the rest to leave it to God. And even being shortlisted as a finalist, it also boosts you up in your next applications. So yeah, Linet, you could go ahead, then we could open the room for Q&A. But after Linet and any other speaker would want to say anything. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much, Trish, for that. I want to second you actually, because what you get out of the application process is, I would say, is the gift. Like for me, the process gave me so much clarity of what I wanted to do, and I was applying with a mentality that even if I don't get it, I've at least gotten better clarity of what I want to do in the future, and the process itself is also very rewarding. The other thing is, if you make it to the short list, you meet very amazing people as well. And I'm still friends with some of the people I met as finalists. So it's not a do or a die. Just put your best foot forward and then leave the rest to God. But it's very rewarding to think about um just think about what you want to do with your life, for lack of a better word. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I see our host is back. Thank you. Please take over.
I'm sorry for what happened. Something happened with my internet, but I'm back. Thank you for answering those few questions that were structured. Right now, I think we can open the floor for a few more questions that some people feel need to be answered. So I don't know if you can type it or you just talk. Yeah, if you have a question, you can raise your hand, then we can, have it answered by the panel. Yeah.
Yeah, Christopher, please go ahead. Just unmute and shoot your question.
My question is I have several questions, so let me start with the first question. My first question is to the person who spoke about the application from being an undergraduate holder to the doctorate, that is the PhD. So, like you said, it's about the academic qualification. If I may just inquire, when did you finish your undergraduate, and how long did it take for you now to qualify for the scholarship?
Okay, so I did see a couple of questions about this on the chat. So when I applied for the scholarship, I hadn't actually finished my undergraduate degree. I was still in the process of finishing that. So what the scholarship will require is your academic statements or your transcript for the years that you have completed in your undergraduate degree, and you'll use that as reference that you can complete this degree with some really good results. So you can get the scholarship before you even finish your undergraduate degree, because usually the selection happens before you get your final results. But I guess this to some extent will be a bit conditional until you get your final results, and that will determine whether you'll be able to have a successful PhD application. But I hope that does answer your question. So it was before I finished my undergraduate degree when I got the scholarship, when I applied for the scholarship, and I was using my academic transcripts. And yeah, I hope that clarifies everything.
Okay, there's also this question I wanted to inquire more about. So you talked about a personal statement, 3 academic statements, and 5 references. So maybe you can elaborate.
Kwa kupigwa risasi tumboni, mwanahabari wetu Ole Francis anatupasha zaidi.
Can you hear me?
Okay, let me just respond to that one, and we could go to another person who wants to ask questions. So let's keep it to 2 questions. Yeah, so there is a personal statement, there is the academic statement, and there's references. So references are basically just your referees. So these are people who you put their email on your application portal for them to submit referral letters about you. So there are 5 of them, and 3 of them must be your academic referees, and 2 should be professional referees. And that is all done through the application portal, and you put their emails there, and they will receive a notification for them to submit. Let me call it anonymously in courts, because you not know what they submit about you. Then now for the academic statement is what Linet was talking about, and basically you speaking about what you plan to do in terms of your studies, and more of yeah, Marah will add on to that. Yeah, and you're muted. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, not sure if Marah is speaking or not.
Sorry, I wanted to. My network had dropped me from the call. What I wanted to speak about was on the references, and I wanted to say that I'm not sure, maybe for East Africa is professional references, but for Southern Africa, what you need is 3 academic referees and 1 character reference, so 4 references. So academic are people who taught you in your undergrad or who can speak to your academic ability. So it doesn't have to be someone from high school, preferably from undergrad or that area of that season of your life. And then the character reference is someone who doesn't know you in an academic or professional setting, but can speak to you as a person and who you are. Yeah, so I'm not sure if that's the same because for East Africa too. Thank you.
Yes, I'm answered. Thank you.
Okay.
Hello.
Chelsea, you want to add something?
Yes, please. It is the same thing in East Africa, 3 academic referees and one character referee. I just wanted to make sure that the East African applicant knows that.
So Kenya is basically out of the East Africa bracket. Linet maybe could say something about that, because at least during my time, we needed 5 of them, and Linet could answer to that. Then after Linet speaks, the next person would be Samuel to ask the question. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Shrish. So yeah, Kenya is a constituency by itself, beside East Africa, and it's 5 references. So 3 academic and 2 character. So the academic referees speak to your academic activities, where the character speaks to your character, because the Rhodes is a character scholarship as much as it's scholastic. So I would encourage you to get your referees to speak about different aspects of your experiences. So if you probably did a research project, get your probably you did a research project, have one of your academic referees speak about the research project. If you did an internship, have another academic referee talk about the internship or your character. Maybe speak to your coach or someone who's watched you outside of class and let them all speak about different aspects. How you would go about it is you could probably tell them, maybe for each of them, you could tell them, you can speak about this, you can speak about this, but it's people who bear testimony to your character and also your academic capabilities. They don't have to be like well renowned, but they need to know you. Like versus asking your VC for an academic or character reference, you would probably ask for your immediate professor or supervisor, and they would be able to give a testament to your capabilities in both aspects. Yeah.
Hello, everyone.
Hi. You can ask your question.
Okay, thank you. My name is Peter Okello from Kenya. So I have two questions. My first question is, by the time I'm applying for the Rhodes Scholarship, should I be having the research project by the time I'm applying? And my second question is that I've seen via the website for the application for this scholarship, you may be assisted in writing this personal statement, academic, and so forth. So to what extent should I be assisted? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Peter, for that question. I'll probably try and answer that. So should you have a research project as you're applying for the scholarship? It's highly recommended because it adds to your wealth of experiences. Again, if you don't have one, that's probably okay. You can highlight an intention to have one probably, and because as you're applying, you will be waiting for like a year before you get to Oxford. Like if I can share, like personally, I had an industrial attachment, that industrial practicum. Also did a research project, and by the time I was applying, I was working in Nairobi. Well, maybe someone may not have all of that, but you could probably have done an industrial placement that counts as research because it's outside, like, classwork. So it's good if you have done a research project, or also if you're aiming to do one, which you could highlight that in your application. And also, I think I forgot your second question. So the first one was about the research project, and remind me your second question. Sorry.
Okay, my second question is about the assistant in writing the personal statement and academic statement.
Okay.
I've seen via the website you can be assisted. Now I'm asking to what extent?
Okay, so in the assisting, it could be probably AI or even people reviewing your documents. What, like, the selectors will not disqualify you for using AI or something, but there's guidelines to that. And you will be required to indicate whether you are assisted. So just be truthful. That is not something that's going to disqualify you, provided what you present at the end of the day, it's something that's communicating and it's something that's written like in a grammatically correct manner, devoid of like simple mistakes, grammatical errors. It should be coherent. But of course you can be assisted, but be very truthful and indicate in your application that you are actually assisted. That's not gonna disqualify you, provided your essay is good enough. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Nice.
Hello.
Hi.
Yes, my name is Kone and I'm from Sierra Leone, West Africa. I was just checking to know if there's an available space on the scholarship form people from West Africa, Sierra Leone to be specific. And then I also shared in the chat room that I have a possible admission for PhD program at London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. Fortunately, the scholarship I applied for was unsuccessful. So the admission team wrote to me to ask if I have any other funding options available. If yes, then I should apply and provide the contact. But I've not been able to find any scholarship of other funding opportunity options. So I'm asking if this scholarship also can be linked to London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, or is only for Oxford University? And if also the scholarship is for PhD or only master's on undergraduate program. For me, I have an undergraduate degree and I have 2 master's degree. So I'm opting to do a PhD in global health or public health or health. Thank you.
Hi, Peter. So I guess you're in my field in the health space. So what I would say is that your first question, yes, there is a scholarship for West Africa. So the Rhodes Scholarship for West Africa, they take 3 scholars every year, and that's for the whole West African region, Nigeria, etc., including Sierra Leone. What I'll also say is that you can also, there are other countries that are not like covered in these small constituencies, like Sudan, for example. And to apply for those, you can apply through there's a global scholarship. So the Rhodes Global Scholarship, which takes 2 people, I think, every year. So if your country is not within some of the constituencies, you can still apply for the global scholarship. In terms of your DPhil application, unfortunately, this is just for Oxford. So you would have to have like another scholarship that can cover the LSH term. So the Rhodes is only tenable at the University of Oxford. Yes.
Thank you, Marah, for answering that one. Is there anyone else who has a question? Okay, then I have a question, and I'd like to ask Marah, because you're the one who expounded on this, is it possible to do a master's degree, then transit to a PhD while under the Rhodes Scholarship?
Thank you for the question. Yes, absolutely. So you can come in, do a master's degree, and then when you start your master's at the beginning, there's usually time when people are applying for their next program. So you can then apply for a PhD or for another master's. But obviously, like this Thorsten already kind of pointed to, and I think some other, Linet and Chelsea, is that admission into one program does not guarantee admission into the next program. So that's something to always be mindful of. So you can be doing your master's, you may apply for the DPhil, but maybe apply for another master's as a backup option. And the same even applies when you're applying to Oxford for the first time after getting the scholarship. They usually encourage you to apply to maybe 2 or 3 courses so that you have something always as a backup, because sometimes course getting selected into a course is not as straightforward. But in short, yes, you can move from a master's to a PhD under the scholarship, or go straight for a PhD depending on what you want.
Yeah, let me see whose hand is up. Adam, please go ahead and ask your question.
I think Monia has their hand up.
Yeah, Monia, please. So much.
No, thank you. You've already answered
Really sorry about that.
Yes, sorry, you answered my question and you said the scholarship
I'm
is
sorry,
for...
my internet has a problem, but
Hello?
I
Hello?
That's okay. Yamanya can hear you. And Peter, were you responded to?
Yes,
Hello?
I have one last question. Maybe I would like to know what next after maybe you apply for this Rhodes Scholarship and you get an opportunity to study in Oxford. So what next after graduation? Do they offer internship opportunities, or what are some of the opportunities? Or do you get, or do you come back?
Marah, to respond to that?
Yes, so the Rhodes Scholarship does not, while it encourages people to return to their home country, it does not force anyone to go back wherever it is. That's not a requirement at all. So just because you got the roles, you came here, you did your degree, and to get a job, you want to work in the US or whatever, that is totally up to you. Your next steps are totally up to you. They do not dictate that. They can provide guidance and support, but they don't dictate that. So that's one thing to be mindful of. And I'm saying this because I know there are other scholarships that have a requirement for you to go back home, but this is not the case here. And then the next thing I'll say is that the scholarship does not provide like, what should I say, internships, etc., but they can provide support and guidance for that. And one thing that I think Trish can speak on is we also have the Africa Oxford Initiative. So that one is able to provide what are known as Ubuntu internships, which is a year after your program, where you can then they can support you for that year as you try to figure out your next step. So hope that answers your question.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Marah. I know probably there are more questions in the chat,
Hello.
but allow me to, yes. Did anyone want to speak before I wrap it up?
Hi. Hello. Can you get me?
Yeah, please go ahead.
My name is Samuel Masiga from Kenya. Thank you so much for organizing this impactful session that is going to help us for us who are wishing to apply for this year. So my question is, so when writing a personal statement, we are provided with 3 prompts. So can I start with a 3rd prompt, for example, the world, then go to 2nd or first, or we just write them based on how they are stated in the website? Thank you.
Who would want to
You
take
hear
that
me?
question? Yes, we heard you. Thorsten, did you get the question?
Sorry, what was the question again? I was a bit busy with something.
Someone please repeat your question.
Okay, I was asking whether we can write our personal statement based on how the prompts are listed. For example, the first one is, which Rhodes Scholar quality do you display most strongly? Then we have, what would you like to learn from and contribute to the Rhodes community? Then we have, from your place in the world, how will you use your energy and talents to address humanity pressing challenges? So can I start with the 3rd prompt, then go to the rest, or is it a must I start with the first prompt? Thank you.
It's not really a must that you start with the first prompt. So what I would advise is creating a story of your life to some extent with the prompts that you've been given. It's like the prompts are just things that need to be answered on your personal statement, if that makes sense. So your personal statement should address the prompts that are being asked, but not really, it doesn't really necessarily dictate that you have to start with the first one and finish with the last one. Whatever works for you as you are telling your story is absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Answered. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I also agree on the importance of your personal statement should be a story. We don't want the reviewers reading your personal statement and getting confused in the process of what exactly you're talking about. So just try to make it a story with a flow, who you are, where you're coming from, what you intend to do, what you want to do, what you want to do, and just make it a story. And yeah, I think that's it for our question today. And for any further questions, I've shared my email account in case you have any more questions. Then I will coordinate on how best I can respond to those questions. But for now, to end this session by thanking first my host, moderator, Emunah Faith. Thank you so much for covering up for me because I'm on transit and I didn't want to reschedule this session. And I would also want to thank my amazing panelists, Thorsten, Linet, Chelsea, and Marah Grace. I really appreciate you because it's been quite some time trying to plan this and eventually our schedules aligned. And I thank you so much for sharing your personal experiences and for being honest with how your application process was and what the experience is currently. For thank you, Chelsea. For our guests today, thank you so much for being patient because I know because of the different in time zones, some people joined way earlier, like 3 p.m. Kenyan time, yet it's supposed to be 6 p.m. Kenyan time, because I put 3 p.m. GMT and people got confused in the process. But I thank those who decided to stick and wait back and join and just listen and share your questions, which are helpful to other people who were not able to share the questions. So I really hope that you've been able to learn one or two things and you've been inspired to proceed with the application. And just like what Marah said, your ticket to Oxford does not only go through the Rhodes Scholarship, there's other various scholarships, like, for example, the one that I'm at, the Mastercard Foundation Scholarship. We have the Commonwealth, we have Chevening, we have many other scholarships. So this should be just one of the scholarships that you're thinking about and try to expand your wings in terms of increasing into getting to Oxford University. But also remember, we also have other universities, Edinburgh, we have Cambridge. So try to be as, futuristic and more, do not just think of just Oxford and that's it. There's more other opportunities for you to proceed with your master's and your PhD/DPhil. So I will share this recording via the link that I've shared on the chat. And for any further questions, my email is in the chat. And my speakers today, these are their names that you can find them on LinkedIn through their common names, which basically Mokone Shibambu, Linet, Nganga, Chelsea, Irakoze, and Marah Grace. Just find them on LinkedIn if you have further questions. And we hope that this has been helpful. And thank you so much. So please do enjoy your evenings, your afternoons, and that's it from me. Thank you so much again, Emunah Faith. Bye for now.
You're welcome.
Thanks so
Bye
much,
for now, guys.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Can you resend the email?
Yes, I'm returning it right now.
Bye.